The heavy spring winds blew loudly alongside the pattering rain outside of Ethan's house, collecting on the roof and spilling down onto the concrete below loudly. Ethan considered it to be a calming sound, although sometimes it made it a bit difficult to sleep. Ethan was a pale man, definitely from lack of sunlight. He had short black hair and blue-gray eyes, and he frequented casual clothes. He'd been living alone since he was 18. He was 26 now. He'd never really looked for a roommate after moving in here, being lucky enough to own the place. It had been his father's house before he died, so it was left to him. He still had a job, considering he still had to pay bills, even if he didn't have to pay rent. But at least he didn't have the rent. And his job as an Amazon truck driver didn't exactly involve a lot of collaboration. He didn't exactly feel lonely, at least not most of the time. Well, why would he? Sure, most people had partners, friends that come over more than once a month to do laundry in their washing machines. But how exactly does one find one of those? An app? He'd sooner die than slap his name and face into Tinder. Deciding to get something to eat, Ethan sat up from his bed with a soft groan, rubbing his eyes and grabbing his glasses off the nightstand. Why had he even taken them off again? It wasn't like he ever fell asleep this early. 1 a.m., not a chance in hell. The young man opened his bedroom door and walked into the kitchen, flicking a light on and going over to his fridge. He had some things there, mainly bread and a few different types of cheeses. Bottle of wine. Mostly he had pre-made food in the freezer to heat up, though. He really wasn't in the mood to cook a whole meal. Ethan pulled the loaf of white bread and a bag of Colby Jack cheese out of the fridge and closed it, yawning and setting them on the corner. A grilled cheese would suffice, and he could just preheat the oven and watch something boring while it cooked. Maybe the news? The world falling apart was awfully something. He reached for the remote to the TV and switched it to a news channel, letting it run in the background while he struggled to open the bag of cheese, eventually getting it open and pulling 3 slices out. One might say that 3 slices of cheese is too much for a single grilled cheese, but Ethan disagreed. More cheese was always better. As the news channel ran in the background, Ethan heard something that caught his interest. It was something new, not related to politics, not in the way that he was used to hearing about anyways. It sparked much debate about if the laboratory fire was intentionally set or if it was a simple accident that carried more destruction than is typical for a research facility. Some people wonder if this is an act of sabotage. Ethan raised an eyebrow, setting the oven to preheat and going over to sit on the couch, paying more attention to the TV now that it had said something that actually interested him. Laboratory fire? Sabotage? Unfortunately for him, the news had switched to talking about something completely unrelated. "Where is my— Aha!" he said, reaching over to the table next to him and pulling his phone off the charger. Hopefully he could find the right article. It wasn't often that laboratories spontaneously combusted, or whatever. He opened the Google search bar and typed in, "Laboratory blows up, sabotage 2027. Hopefully that'd get him there. Several search results popped up, a few of them from several years ago, but most of the top results being exactly what he was looking for. Ethan clicked on a headline that read, "Fatal Disease Research Lab Mysteriously Combusts." That sounded about right, even if it was on a weird pseudoscience website. A secretly operating government disease research laboratory hidden off the coast of Oregon was discovered 1.5 months ago after seemingly spontaneously combusting, leaving no survivors. It seemed to have been researching fatal pathogens of all kinds, covering all 5 pathogen types. No survivors were found inside the building or anywhere near the area, although some security camera footage that has been recently recovered and made public seems to show what some are calling aliens exiting the building. Some people suspect foul play from an unknown party. Ethan stopped reading there. Aliens? People genuinely believed that aliens had broken into some random research base to stop them from studying fatal diseases? Sure, why not? I mean, Flat Earth was a common conspiracy, so why not also have anti-vax aliens raiding secret hidden labs? Rational. The oven beeped loudly, signaling that it was finished preheating. Ethan stood up, turned off the TV, walked into the kitchen, and almost tripped as a knock on the door startled him. A knock on the door this late? Who the hell? He turned the oven off and looked around, grabbing a glass from one of the cabinets before slowly approaching the door. It was times like this when he wondered why not all doors have peepholes. "Who's there?" he called through the door, not sure if whoever was on the other side would hear him. Maybe they would run away if they were a burglar, if they knew he was awake and active. "Ah, so this one's alive?" a female voice asked, a European accent layered over it. She sounded somewhat older, but not necessarily elderly, perhaps just wise. "Why don't you open your door so I can tell you to your face who I am?" "I'm not letting a random person come into my house. What do you want?" Ethan asked, just barely managing to stop his voice from cracking as he tried to sound intimidating. Talking to other people was never his strong suit. An unannounced guest that wanted to come inside was a fate worse than death. "I just want to talk," the mystery woman said from outside. "Do you have tea? If not, could you brew a pot before I come in? I prefer to talk over tea, but I suppose alcohol will suffice if you do not have it." Ethan sputtered, shocked by the sheer audacity of whoever was behind his door. They were standing there, knocking on his door at 1 a.m., asking to come in without so much as a reason or even a name, and asking for a beverage when they came in? Who even said that they'd be coming in at all? Ethan had half a mind to just go back to eating his sandwich before it got cold, but he was worried that whoever this clearly deranged woman was would try to break in if he didn't at least open the door. He reached out and pulled the door open just a crack, trying to peer out and see who was there, but that was enough for the mystery woman to waltz right in as if she owned the place. What was she, a stray cat? Wait, what was she? The woman was standing there and grabbing herself a glass out of Ethan's cupboard. She was a bit shorter than him, and she was wearing a long light purple and cream dress that looked like it was straight out of a period piece. But that wasn't even the alarming part. The alarming part was that she wasn't human. At least Ethan had never seen a human that looked like her. Her skin was an inky dark indigo color, and it looked as if it was melting right off her face, drips of slime frozen in place on her chin. She had purple hair that curled across one side of her face, and her pale eyes had star-shaped black pupils. 2 dark purple horns were sprouted from the top of her head. What are you?" Ethan asked shakily, taking a step away from the creature. He was still brandishing his glass cup, but he had no idea if that would even do anything anymore. Was this one of those aliens that the crazy people had warned the internet about? "My name is Yersinia," she said, rummaging through the fridge for a moment before pulling out a bottle of Ethan's wine. "I'm here to ask a favor of you, if you allow me to come in properly, at least." Ethan stumbled back as she came closer, holding the glass out and waving it at her as if it were a weapon. The strange woman hummed softly and grabbed the glass right out of his hand, pouring the bottle of wine into it and raising it to her lips, taking a long sip. Her mouth was flat, almost like a wild animal. "This will suffice, human," she said, setting the glass down and looking at him with a tilted head, a slow smirk crossing her face. "Human? What the hell did that mean?" "Are you up for a deal, dear?"